first step is to paint the background. So I loaded up my brush using 3 colors. I have a dark green, a light green, and a white. And I don't fully blend it out. I want to see separations of some of these colors. This is supposed to be long grasses or a hosta. This guy was actually hiding in the hostas that day, and I took a picture. So I'm working from a reference photo. I did all my measuring ahead of time. You have to get all the proportions correct before you can go in and paint. With below the cat, this is mulch that he's laying in. Of course, he's here to help me. I have 2 different browns that I loaded up, and then you'll see me dip into a green, the same green paints that I used for the top, but I did not rinse my brush in between, which makes it appear a darker green, and I like that. So lots of times I leave a dirty brush and I dip into a shade on top of that. And what's happening is I'm mixing my own colors. It makes it unique to you. And I do want to mention too that this is done on a block of wood. So we're not painting on a canvas today. This is just wood that I had primed first. See how that green turns into a brownish green? It looks like a forest green or a hunter green. Now we'll start building color within the cat. So a lot of this area will be white, but you don't want to start with white. You want to have dimension to the white. So I'm using a taupey color, I would say. It's really just the browns and tans mixed with a little bit of the green in there because it's reflecting the greens of the grass behind him in his white fur. So we'll get that on there first, and of course we're not keeping it that way. Do some around the eyes as well, and other points that have white. Very neutral, grayish brown. I'm looking back and forth for reference at my photo. I'm starting to pick out some deeper colors here. There he is, there's my photo. You can see that he has a lot of orange in his fur, so now I'm starting to get a little warmer with my tones. Again, it's going to be layers and layers of building up. This is a paint to the wetness of it. I put a little more water to the paint so that it glides more and it's more of a wash. I like to concentrate on some of my darks in here first. This is a wash with warmer tones. So a wash is, again, adding some water to your paint, brushing it on top. It's a bit transparent, so you can still see that depth and underneath. Now, obviously, I got a head start on this, but this is the technique, pouncing color on. So this is a short-haired domestic cat. So because it has short hair, I'm using a lot of pouncing right now. From a distance, it actually looks like a pointillism. It's almost a stippling technique, but I'm doing it with a brush, so just dotting on colors. Loading up my brush with several different colors at a time. Just pouncing it on. Don't worry, we'll smooth all this out, but you have to have those tones in there. Going in to try to finalize some of this ear. working with a different brush now, a medium fine point, and we're looking for darks and lights. Little strokes though, because his hair is short. To my older brush here, I'm swooping these whiskers in, so it's kind of a curve. You can dab off if it's a little too wet, and you'll go back in with a finer brush. So I put those in with a large brush with bristles that are separated, and then I'll go back over and just fine tune these with a little teeny tiny detailed brush. This is my favorite. We're looking for little patches of color, so I'm using a really tiny thin detail brush. I'm working back and forth between the eyes, and not only doing the eyeballs, but we're doing the skin around it. So really look for all those different colors in there. Several different greens, a little bit of browns and yellow in here as well. Pupils, of course, are black, and always put a lot of reflection in there. That shows that the eye is wet. Take some time, but I really think the eyes give your animals the most character. So I'm switching to a slightly larger brush here, and you can see how wet this is. So this again is another wash, but now we're starting to blend out those pounced areas. The hair in this area was a little bit longer, so I'm trying a different technique. I actually load up the brush, push it down, and then drag or pull the brush through and down. So pounce on, drag through. Peachy wash. Lots of water to that. And we're using the brush. This is a totally dry brush. So what happens is it removes some of the paint that's too wet. So you can do that, use a rag or your fingers, whatever you feel comfortable with. I bounce back and forth a lot. Most of the time, I actually use my fingers. So even though this is a lighter wash, it works on top of the dark as well. So here we're just lightening them up a little bit. Because it's a wash, I'm not getting rid of all the other brush strokes that I put on before. It takes a lot of time, but it's really worth it. I did have this cat done within 3 days, but they were long days. Time for whiskers. This just takes some patience, and you have to make sure your paint is not too stiff, and you have to make sure it's not too watery. So you have to play with it a little bit, but my real advice is a tiny bit of paint, not a lot on your brush when you do this. And push down a little bit at the base and then pull it out. As you're going down the length of the whisker, you want to lift a little bit. That'll keep it lighter. So he has white whiskers, but I did put slight gray tones to this too, because there's some shadow underneath the whiskers. Final steps here. So I did go over my base a little bit, adding more color to it, and the top background around the cat, but I kept it very impressionistic. So here I just need to pull the fur on top of this base, and I'm taking my time using that same tiny brush that we used for the whiskers and the eyes. This is real time here, it's not speeded up, so you can see how long it takes to just put that on. But I'm doing it in layers, so I did an underneath area, and you see the strands, and then I went above that. And we'll do more of that too.